years old, and I'm sitting next to my mother's bed. The shades are drawn, and it's dark in the room, even though it is the middle of the afternoon. And yesterday, for the first time, I was able to tell my mother all the things that I wanted to tell her. And she received them in exactly the way that I wanted her to receive them. And I felt like we finally had this amazing connection, and I was so happy. So I looked at her in the bed, and I said, "Mom, I'm so grateful for that conversation we had yesterday." And she stared at me blankly. And then she said, "What did we talk about?" And my heart sank. And before I could respond to that, she heavied her eyelids and rolled over. And as I watched her sleeping, I made a promise to myself. And that promise to myself I have kept to this day. But before I tell you that promise, I need to back up a little bit and give you a little bit of context. So when I was 12, I was angry at the world. I had survived 4 years of sexual abuse at the hands of a family member. And when my large extended family found out about that, and by the way, have you ever seen my Big Fat Greek Wedding? Raise your hand. Okay, we were the Italian version of that. Everyone's big and loud and in your face, and we would sing every time we were around each other. We called the songs Grandma and the Sister songs, because my mom had all these siblings. There was an uncle too, but I guess it didn't matter. So when my whole family found out about this, the family divided down the middle. So people whom I had been really close with before told me I wasn't their family anymore and they didn't love me anymore. Holidays became divided. Some families would take the mornings while my parents and I would take afternoons. And I wasn't permitted to see 2 of my cousins who had been my best friends. One day we were inseparable, and the next day they were like ghosts. I have no idea what they were told about what happened. Now, the effect this had on me, it left me with severe PTSD, a horrible self-image, all of these negative emotions like anger and guilt that I didn't know how to cope with. And self-harming behaviors. I turned to drugs, I turned to cutting, I turned to anything that would just numb this pain. Now, for those of us who have gone through a spiritual awakening, we often describe it as a defining moment in our life. It's like someone took a Sharpie and just drew a vertical line down our timeline, clearly delineating 2 separate sides, right? Who we were before that awakening and then who we became after. Now, for me, that moment happened in 2002 when someone handed me this book that changed my way of thinking, my way of being, my way of moving through life. And as I turned the pages, it hit me so hard that what was written inside of it, it felt like the truth. And like a sleeper agent, something inside of me woke up. When I finished, I started reaching for more. I became insatiable. I started reading every metaphysical, spiritual, new age, and personal development book I could get my hands on. I attended workshops and retreats. I watched documentaries. I became obsessed with quantum physics, metaphysics, reincarnation, yoga, the law of attraction, the ancient astronaut theory, sacred geometry, biohacking, functional medicine, and every healing modality I could get my hands on. Every book was like this new door opening in this unending hallway. I wanted more, I needed more, I was hooked. My life became one big mission to learn, grow, heal, and expand every aspect of myself. But as I changed my mind and started to get better, my mother started to get worse. Her family had been ripped down the seams, and she started to present with illnesses. Both serious illnesses, but also these really strange afflictions that we had never heard of before and doctors could barely explain. So they started giving her pills. And then they started giving her pills for the side effects of those pills, and pretty soon they were just throwing everything at the wall, hoping that something would stick. And my mother slept a lot. So at the height of it, she was on a fentanyl patch. She was taking about 11 different pills every day, including Dilaudid, which is a pretty serious painkiller. She was sleeping for all but a few hours of daylight. She fell down all the time. She nodded off at the dinner table, and, like you know, she forgot conversations we had the day prior. Now, this lasted almost 15 years while I lived with unbelievable guilt that I had destroyed my family and broken my mother. But in the end, it was my mother who became my biggest teacher. Because every step that she took deeper into depression and illness, I climbed hand over hand in the other direction out of that proverbial tunnel. Because I saw firsthand what happens to a human body and spirit when they go down that path. And then I saw what happened to my own body and spirit as I decided to change my mind about the nature of reality. And I made that promise to myself, that I would always prioritize my health and I would do everything I could to heal physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's a promise I've kept to this day. And to this day, you will still find me reading every book, attending every workshop, trying every new healing modality, because I believe that learning and growth is never over. If we're not learning and growing, we become stagnant, stale, bored, stiff, stuck, and we lose purpose and passion. Now, Tony Robbins says that there are 6 human needs that all of us share. But what differentiates us is how we prioritize those needs and how we meet them. Now, 4 of those needs are physical, but the last two are spiritual. And the 2 spiritual needs are growth and contribution. Now, I've already told you how important personal growth is to me. But contribution is the cherry on top of the sundae. Because what good is all that knowledge and growth and wisdom if you're not giving it back, if you're not sharing it, if you're not lifting up others, right? If you're not in service to humanity. So the way that that's manifested in my own life, I left my cushy job in tech. I was head of a marketing department because I didn't feel like I was living my life's purpose. I didn't feel like I was in service to humanity. So I took a leap of faith. And then in 2020, I opened a yoga company. Last year, I opened a coaching company, and now I get to spend all my time talking about all of the things that I have been obsessing about for the last 2 decades. My goal now is to help millions of people. The first step to that is I wrote a book. It became available for pre-order this week. It's called Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality, and I would love it if you would all pre-order it. Thank you so much for your time.